I'm doing a follow-up on the video that I posted last weekend, which was titled Single, Sober, Celibate. Now, while I expected it to spark some conversation, it kind of took very different versions and turns here and there, which I love, and I'll tell you why, because I'm all for having conversations, whether they make you uncomfortable or not. And I had a feeling that it might create conversations, divided views, unified views, because the truth is celibacy isn't necessarily seen as something that's on culture, if that makes sense. And so noted, some people would, have different things to say about it, but I'll come back to that at the end of this video. I'm also answering some questions. That's why I thought it was important to do this video. And the first one is the definition of celibacy. I like the way I took for granted that people know what the definition is. I know the dictionary says that it is the voluntary choice to abstain from sexual activity or to remain unmarried. I think in the context in which I talked about it, it was about abstaining from sexual activity. And so I know a few people were like, what does it mean exactly? And then a few people asked about the reasons why. So number one, there's a massive community out there of people who are practicing celibacy, not just on the timeline or on my timeline, not just in the country, regionally, globally. Statistically, I think post-COVID, there's a lot of data that speaks to the fact that in as much as there was issues around alcoholism and hypersexualization, on the other hand, there's been a massive decline in people drinking for enjoyment. So there's been sort of like people taking a break from drinking. And it's a personal decision, as I mentioned, that people make. And understandably, there's going to be folks who wonder, number one, why talk about it? Number two, why do it? But I know I found companionship sometimes even in pop culture. And another thing is I don't want to be seen as a brand ambassador for Single, Sober, Celibate. That's what I'm trying to do here. I'm not necessarily trying to make it a clarion call. I just know that people sometimes seek community, and I'd rather be able to spark that conversation. And even if people throw stuff at me, at least I know that there's people who feel seen and heard. My WhatsApp, my DMs, my timeline, it's been overwhelming, to be honest, the number of people who found resonance and comfort in what it is that I said. And I knew that because a lot of people are either going through this journey, have been through this journey, or want to go into the journey. And so I'm here saying, even if people want to throw shame at it and throw shame at you, it's got nothing to do with their journey. It has everything to do with yours. So I'm not the brand ambassador. You know who would be a really good brand ambassador for this conversation on celibacy? 50 Cent, a whole hip hop artist who wrote one of the biggest thirst trap songs of our time, Candy Shop. He's publicly mentioned that he's celibate. He talked about because he wants to focus on things. There's a ton of people of influence who have chosen the path. Some of them have done it for years. Some of them have done it for months. And I know that shouldn't matter because it's like celebrity culture is also evolving. People don't hold them to such a high regard than they previously did. But it's still, these are people of massive influence and they're doing it and they don't have a problem. Understand that the older you get, more often than not, the older you get, the more options and choices you have. So imagine being at that place where you have options, choice, freedom, and you're choosing to say, I don't want that for myself right now. It's got something to do with what you're focusing on right now. And I'll go right into the reasons again why. One of them, which I underscored it in the other video, and I don't want to do that, is my pursuit of spirituality and faith. I've mentioned before that I'm on a journey of faith, and sometimes I don't feel qualified to talk about it, which I know sounds strange, but it's because everybody finds faith and God in their own time, in their own way. I get very hurt when people use the name of God to then do things that hurt a lot of people, and we've seen that over and over again. And so sometimes I would rather evolve quietly and organically with God and only share when I'm fully clear on what He's showing me or what it means. But part of this pursuit, and I think the reason I've been able to kind of stay steady on this course, is because it's rooted in faith. It's rooted in having a deeper fulfillment and understanding of faith and spirituality to guide the next chapter of my life. And so even though it is hard because we're human beings and human beings are sexual beings, however people choose to stay celibate or whatever allows them to stay grounded in celibacy or sobriety or being single is for very different reasons. People find strength in different ways. I'm just saying, drawing that strength from God and from faith makes so much sense to me. Like the math is mapping for me, even as I'm trying to discover more, even as I'm trying to understand spirituality and faith more. So that's a big reason why. The other one is focus. Like a lot of people, even in my comment section, on my WhatsApp, a lot of folks said, you know, Janet, I chose this for myself because I just wanted to focus on my goals, focus on my growth, focus on my traumas, focus on healing from traumas that I realized were preventing me from having a fulfilled sexual life or relationship. Whatever it is, a lot of the time people hit pause to just rethink and refocus. I look at it like we were outside and then we came in for shelter. Like we're outside. You're outside, you're having a good time, you're doing you, you're having the time of your life, and for whatever reason, you want to go in for shelter. Maybe the rain starts beating you, and you say, you know what, I'm going to go take shelter. Then when you take shelter inside, you start to feel a sense of, oh, it's warming up, oh, this feels nice, oh, maybe I should stay here a bit longer. Maybe I don't want to go back outside right now. Maybe I'm tired, maybe I want to put my feet up and rest. That's kind of how I look at it, is the amount of time that you're going back to spend inside is kind of your moment of pause before saying, I'm going to go back outside, whether that means I'm going to go back outside and explore explore the world out there, explore relationships and sexuality, or I'm going to go back outside when I'm ready for marriage, or when I'm ready for a relationship, or whatever it is that you're ready for. Inside, outside. Celibacy, inside. Outside, outside. With the spiritual component, you do begin to kind of shift what it is you're internalizing, what you're watching, what you're reading, that just helps you stay grounded and focused. But I'm also a believer in choice, and I think that's the third reason I'll bring up. So focus, faith, and choice. Now, the reason I say that is because I find it so unfortunate when it comes to something like comprehensive sex education, something that it's really fought in countries like Kenya. So you have one message being put out there for adolescents and young adults because you think that that one message is going to resonate with all of them. I'm here to tell you for free, an uncomfortable truth is that teenagers are having sex, sometimes with multiple sexual partners. That's just the truth. Now, are we going to say abstain or you'll die? Or are you going to give comprehensive education to say the choices that you have are abstain, be careful, use protection, and as they get a little bit older into like late teens, early adulthood, use contraceptives. I know there's a lot of folks who'll push back on me on this. That's fine. It's okay if you want to live in your bubble. But the truth is, when people don't have choices and options, when they don't have the whole story, they feel forced to take one choice, which maybe they would have made differently had they had the full picture. So I can understand how choice can be seen as a privilege, which it shouldn't be. There should be a lot of information out there. The fact that I can choose to have sex, to abstain, to have children, to not have children, is a choice. It's a privilege. But it's also important that people have this information at hand. And even though I'm on a journey of celibacy, it doesn't stop me from having the Beducated app, which I learned about from Murugi and Lydia's podcast, TMI. I wonder if you can be a celibate in-betweener. Maybe they'll tell me. But the point is, there's a lot of resources out there on information, on consent, on celibacy, on healthy sex and sexuality. And as I've mentioned, being rooted on more of a spiritual journey might mean that I pause a lot of those resources for now, but can always go back to them because information is power. And it's important to have information on the choices you make and the choices that other people wish to make. We're doing a disservice to young people by censoring the full truth and understanding that if you have sex, it comes with consequences. You could get pregnant, you could get a disease, or you could just become emotionally sort of wrapped up in your emotions in a way that could distract you from things which are important, your studies, your sports, your community. That's just the truth. You know, that's why people say having sex when you're older is preferable, maybe because you have a better understanding of yourself and the world around you. But it's not the reality. The reality is a lot of young people are having sex. So let's talk to them about the importance of choices, consequences, and options. Because we think that by teaching sex, we're going to encourage it. That's not true. By teaching choice, or by having a conversation about choice, you'd be very surprised about what people will pick. And sometimes maybe they feel pressure to do it because it's within their peer group. And if you don't do it, suddenly you're not cool. And young people want community. And yet you could also have a community that says, we're going to wait. Whatever it is, I don't want to go into it because it's a very big and layered topic, but I thought it was important to touch on choice as part of reproductive health and rights, as part of sexual education, as part of comprehensive sex education. I think it's critical that we give people a full scope understanding of what it is. Shame is a terrible thing to throw on people, and we do it because I think when you're throwing shame at somebody, is it because maybe you haven't dealt with your own? Because the way you throw shame freely out there, shame around the reasons why somebody's choosing to be in a sexual relationship, shame around the reason why somebody's choosing to abstain, shame around how they're living their life, and especially as women, man, women are shamed a lot. We're shamed for being young, we're shamed for being older. We're shamed for having sex, we're shamed for not having sex. We're shamed for having a job, we're shamed for not having a job, we're shamed for being a parent, we're shamed for not being a parent. I love how one comment came on my timeline, Janet, we have to do us because whether or not you do it, you will be shamed, and it's true. A lot of people said that by me mentioning and talking about it, it lifted the shame from them. And for me, that's beautiful. So let me stand in the gap. Let people throw stuff at me. Having been in the media for all these years, the insults are literally the same. From 15 years ago, they'll be the same today, they'll be the same tomorrow. Some of us develop shock absorbers because we've been in the industry for a long time. And by the time you're putting out a message like this, you know things are gonna come at you. But let me stand in the gap for the people who can't, for the people who needed to feel seen, heard, and validated. This is for them. This is because I know there's a lot of people struggling with what choices to make. Stay true to you. At the end of the day, the choice that you make, you live with it. You go to bed with it. You wake up with it. No matter how much people are saying out there, you always know what your truth is. Even though you're afraid to step into your truth, you have community. I'll tell you for free, you have community. The number of people are even asking for a forum, but I'm like, am I really the right person? Like I said, I don't want to tout myself as a brand ambassador for this. What I do is I talk about navigating a journey of healing, navigating where I am, and when I get to whichever side I'll be on next year and the year after, I'll talk about it. I'm learning and living at the same time. So it's important to know that I'm very big on data, because when there's data, then there's validation. And articles from The Guardian, from the New York Post, from Psychology Today talk about, they really talk about the different reasons that people choose to be celibate, why a lot of men are choosing it, why a lot of women are choosing it, that kind of thing. So always know that when you're in a journey, there's millions of others. And about the truth is that whether or not you're living in your truth right now, eventually the truth comes out. Eventually you'll be forced to step into your truth. Extend grace to yourself, because sometimes it's not a gentle step in, sometimes it's hard. But your truth will always set you free. I know that sounds so cheesy, but it's true. It will liberate you. Whether or not people, even the Bible has so many references for people who chose to step into their truth. They were ridiculed, they were mocked, but in the end, it sustained them. It sustained their discipleship. It sustained their ability to be family people, to be friends, to be community. Your truth is your truth, and nobody else deserves to throw anything at you for living it. And if you want to step into it, there is community. I have to say that because it's absolutely true. And so it's official with Janet Mbugua. I love having these conversations with you. Let's keep the conversation going. Let's navigate this journey together. And someday I would love to sit with a whole bunch of you. So let's see what we can do next year, God willing. In the meantime, you have community. You have community. You need to know that.